You are now tuned in to the Chaotic Culture Podcast.
It's the KKP on your mother flipping airways. Hear the name ringing through the halls and the stairways. You were listening to a pod that can segue. All the latest topics guaranteed to fill your headspace. It's a safe place to voice your opinion. Say what you feel just like you're a kid again. Kid to pro and friends, black as obsidian. Chaotic culture, that's the world we living in. So what's the word?
Long time no see, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody is doing well. Once again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast, the part where chaos rules and black culture is supreme. The Chaotic Culture Podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/chaotic culture pod. Please be sure that you subscribe to the Patreon for bonus content, getting episodes early, and of course, to help keep the lights on. Once again, we appreciate your support. This podcast will deep dive into modern black culture and how millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha can navigate the crazy parts. From finances, black business highlights, black professionals, community content creators, homeownership, HBCUs, sports, black nerdom, anime, wrestling, anything going on regarding black news, and especially black music. If it encompasses black culture, we're going to cover it. And live from the 410, I'm the host and the creator of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. This is your boy, Cat the Pro, a.k.a. the Calculated Millennial, a.k.a. the Encore Presentation.
Can I get an encore? Do you want more?
A.k.a. your favorite toxic adjacent king, Cat the Poet, Cat the Closer, all that good stuff. 843, it's me. Baltimore is the place to be. Always chaotic, never toxic most days. And back again, once again, with your favorite black culture highlights and black culture shenanigans. I'm running a solo episode today. Everybody has something that they got going on. So, it's just like, well, I haven't recorded and I haven't done an episode for you guys in a minute. I took a little bit of a holiday break. And of course, to kind of get me back in the right mindset, as far as mental health goes, my mental health is okay for now. But I did want to at least tell y'all that I had been going through a little bit of a depressive mood. I'm not going to say I'm dealing with full-blown depression because I'm not. But I was in a little bit of a funk because I had recorded what I thought was a great episode regarding cover songs. And unfortunately, not a lot of people watched. And I get it. It was Thanksgiving week, but I thought that would be such a hot topic for everyone to tune in. And it was one of those things where it was just like, dang, nobody really watched. And for me personally, I'm just glad that I kind of can express my frustrations on this pod because I have plenty. Let me not say that. I have plenty of frustrations to vent. But it's one of those situations for me where you think that, oh, this episode is going to really capture the audience's attention, and then it doesn't. And you're just kind of like, well, shit, what did I do wrong? Maybe it was timing. Maybe it was I didn't promote it as much as I should have. Who knows? But that is one of the downsides of podcasting because in some cases you'll have episodes that you didn't think would do numbers, and episodes that that people are going to enjoy will do numbers. And then there are those where you really know that, or you really think that an audience would enjoy it, and then they don't pay attention to it at all. And it kind of sucks. And sometimes it can really affect my mood and it can really affect how I'm feeling. And especially when I sit in this chair, because there are times where I'm like, man, do I really want to record? Do I really want to put an episode out there? Why even bother? Those thoughts start circulating in my head. And I know that this is me thinking negatively, and I'm a very positive person, but sometimes it happens. And I know that I've said this ad nauseum on this podcast, but the feeling never really goes away. When you have a great episode, you get this immense high. And then when you put out some of your best work and it doesn't get anywhere, it's just like, well, shit. If there's a silver lining to that, though, is that one of our clips got hella views on YouTube and on TikTok. And it's just like, well, dang, y'all see the clips, but you're not watching the pod episode. But I also think that that is a testament to how we have been trained to be pretty much have short-term attention spans. Like if something is longer than 5 minutes, we're really not like going to pay attention to it. Something's longer than 3 minutes, some of us are not going to pay attention to it. And that's why you see songs on the radio that are no longer than 3 minutes anymore. And that really sucks. But me personally, I I have the same opinion of Erica Badu. Like I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. So hopefully this is just a bump in the road. I have to be consistent. I'm going to continue to be consistent. I didn't drop an episode this past week, in part because of that funk, but also because I was trying to get back into the workflow. And then, Thanksgiving was the prior week. I wanted to take a little bit of a holiday break. So naturally, I did. I more than likely will not drop an episode during the week of Christmas. However, the next week, that will be the episode where I do my top 25 hip hop albums of 2025. So don't expect an episode during the week of Christmas, but do expect an episode for the end of the year or the week after. So there's that. Otherwise, my Thanksgiving was great. My mom came up here for the first time. She got a chance to spend some time at the apartment. We went to my cousin's house, got to spend time with my cousins. My cousin just had a baby, and I got to see my baby cousin for the first time. Of course, I also got to spend time with another one of my older cousins as well, my aunt and uncle. Overall, this was a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we didn't do too much. We really didn't. But, with new baby and everything else being involved, we just decided, this Christmas will be this Thanksgiving would be a little more relaxed. So it was a very relaxing environment, and I'm just glad that I got to spend time with my family and with my mom. My mom's birthday was the 1st of December, so before she flew back, got a chance to have a nice brunch with her. And overall, I'm just glad that we got her for another year. Always, always, always important to celebrate birthdays here. So, other than that, just been working, guys, working and sleep. But there are a few topics that I kind of wanted to go over today and just kind of express my thoughts on. There are, and I mean, a lot of things happening in the world. Naturally, y'all know how I feel about our current government. And boy, I'm looking at this government and at the Supreme Court, and I'm just like, man, are we going to make it? It feels like they are really trying to turn us into a dictatorship and or a autocracy at this point, because the way that the Supreme Court has been handling these cases, it really, really, really makes me, I'm not going to say not hopeful, but it definitely really, it just, I don't want to say, again, I don't want to use the word depress, but it does depress me. Just to see what our government is doing, what our judicial system is doing, and pretty much how the latest legislative branch is just kind of like, yeah, let him do what he wants. That's pretty much how they've turned into lame duck and stuff. They're like, hey, just give him what he wants. We're afraid to fight him because we don't want to get primaried. We want to keep our jobs, which is really, really crazy. Like, you should be here to serve the people, not to serve at the interest of whoever is in the White House. But what do I know? I've tried my best to stay out of politics, not because I didn't want to be involved, but it's just one of those things where I get even more upset the more I talk about it. But that's not to say that I'm not paying attention. That's not to say that I'm not paying attention to what's going on in my county, in my state, and of course at the federal level. I'm still actively working to do my part as a citizen of the United States to try and make this a better country. But I don't like talking about it on here because all it's just going to do is piss me off. That being said, I do have to get a little bit political today because there are a lot of things that have happened that have just made me really scratch my head and wonder what are people even doing now? Like what is going on? First things first. If, of course, you are watching any of these clips, please be sure that you check out the podcast once again at youtube.com/at Chaotic Culture Podcast. You can also check us out on any DSP that includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We everywhere. We are everywhere. So just please be sure that you pay attention to us as we drop episodes. If you like any of the clips, please be sure that you like, share, subscribe. If you like the channel, of course, hit that notification bell. Please be sure that you subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all the love that I've been getting, even with the episode not doing as well as I thought it could have done. But still, we live, we move on. And that's just how it is, man. I just got to be consistent. And I will keep being consistent and keep giving you guys content that I think you would like. So, with that in mind, let us go to our first topic, which it's just really mind-boggling. So, of course, this week we had heard that Netflix had pretty much won the bidding war for Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, for those of us who are anti-monopoly, obviously we're just kind of like did not like the idea of one major conglomerate buying part of another. We all know what's happening with Warner Brothers Discovery, that Warner Brothers and Discovery are basically splitting apart again. Should have never merged to begin with, but that is another story for another time. Y'all already know how I feel about David Zaslav. That being said, apparently Paramount Skydance came at the last minute with a hostile bid. And I don't know how I feel about that because we already know that Paramount and Skydance had merged, and we know that they had merged for the worst because now we've got a whole bunch of uh MAGA supporters at the top of Paramount and Skydance, and it just feels like this feels like this is a complete right wing takeover. I'm gonna go ahead and share the article that I read. The article is from Reuters, and I hope that y'all. Well, you of course you can share your opinion of whether you think this is a good move or a bad move. Again, I personally think that this is a bad move, regardless of who wins. But I would much rather Netflix buy Warner Brothers than Paramount Skydance. But anyway, here's the article. Paramount Skydance on Monday lost a hostile bid worth $108.4 billion from Warner Brothers Discovery in a last-ditch effort to outbid Netflix and create a media powerhouse that would challenge the dominance of the streaming giant. Netflix had emerged victorious on Friday from a weeks-long bidding war with Paramount and Comcast, securing a $72 billion equity deal for Warner Brothers Discovery's TV, film studios, and streaming assets. But Paramount's latest attempt means the jockeying for Warner Brothers and its prized HBO and DC comic assets will not come to a conclusion swiftly. The Warner Brothers Discovery Board of Directors on Monday afternoon said it would review Paramount's offer, but was not modifying its recommendation with respect to Netflix. It advised the company to take no action at this time in regard to Paramount Skydance proposal. Paramount's $30 per share cash offer includes financing from Affinity Partners, the investment firm run by Jared Kushner. Oh my God. Here we go, guys. Here we go. U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law and several Middle Eastern government-run investment funds, and is backstopped by the Ellison family. Again, Trump supporters. Larry Ellison, the world's second richest person, is the father of Paramount head David Ellison and has close ties to the White House. If only y'all could really see my face right now. Or maybe you can if you're watching YouTube, because right now I'm like, really? Really? Let me take a sip of water before I keep reading. Excuse me. Larry Ellison called Trump after the Netflix deal was announced and told him the transaction would hurt competition, the Wall Street Journal reported, citing a White House official and a person familiar with the matter. So Paramount Skydance wouldn't hurt competition as well if they bought it? Huh? The studio argues its bid for the entirety of Warner Brothers Discovery is superior to Netflix, giving shareholders $18 billion more in cash and an easier path to regulatory approval. It said a Paramount Warner Brothers combination, which would be among the largest media deals in history, would be in the interest of the creative community, movie theaters, and consumers who would benefit from enhanced competition. We believe our offer will create a stronger Hollywood, Paramount CEO David Ellison said in a statement. Separately, he said Paramount's proposal offered higher headline value, increased certainty in that value, greater regulatory certainty, and a pro Hollywood, pro consumer, and pro competition future. Paramount's bid includes Warner Brothers Discovery's cable television properties. Netflix bid is limited to the Warner Brothers Film and Television Studios, HBO. I don't know why I want to say HBCU, but HBO and the HBO Max streaming service. Analysts noted that Paramount's offer comes with its own antitrust scrutiny as a consolidation of two major television operators. Last month, Democratic senators warned that such a transaction will result in one company controlling almost everything Americans watch on TV. The combined studio would also have a greater market share than current leader Disney and add to fears of consolidation that have hit the industry in recent years. At a UBS conference, Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos said Paramount's hostile bid for Warner Brothers was entirely expected, but added he was confident of closing the deal. In the offer that Paramount was talking about today, the Ellisons were talking about $6 billion of synergies, said Sarandos. Where do you think synergies come from? Cutting jobs? So we're not cutting jobs, we're making jobs. In a regulatory filing, Paramount said that the Ellison family, which owns Paramount, along with private equity firm Redbird Capital, had agreed to backstop $40.7 billion in equity capital. The offer also includes financing from Kushner's Affinity Partners, the Saudi and Qatari sovereign wealth funds, and Limad Holding Company, owned by the government of Abu Dhabi. A Paramount Skydance Warner Brothers merger would be a five-alarm antitrust fire and exactly what our anti-monopoly laws are written to prevent, U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat, said on Monday. The hostile bid is backed by a who's who of Trump buddies, raising serious questions about influence peddling, political favoritism, and national security risk. If Warner Brothers accept Paramount's offer, it will have to pay Netflix a $2.8 billion breakup fee. Netflix, on this part, is on the hook for $5.8 billion if this deal falls through. The streaming pioneer, is likely to face strong antitrust scrutiny, and Trump has already raised questions about his offer. But you wouldn't raise questions about the Paramount Skydance offer. On Monday, Trump said neither bidding party are friends of mine. That's a lie. And he wanted to do what's right. He added that he had not spoken to Kushner about the Paramount bid. I also believe that that is a lie as well. Netflix bid has already drawn sharp criticism from bipartisan lawmakers and Hollywood unions over concerns that it could lead to job cuts as well as higher prices for consumers. While it is perhaps a sad commentary on the U.S. that Paramount thinks its closeness to the occupant of the Oval Office will help it seal the deal, it is merely doing what it can to steal or march on its rival, said Chris Beauchamp, chief marketing analyst at UK-based IG Group. I'm gonna stop reading for there because it's just yeah. But that's I we're getting we are really allowing these major companies to continuously buy each other and continuously grow and grow and grow to the point where they are essentially becoming monopolies. This is the things that I went to school for. I am not comfortable with Netflix buying Warner Brothers. However, I'm even less comfortable with Paramount Skydance trying to get a bid for it. And the reasoning that they have this bid was that they pretty much wanted to, I guess, create a more creator friendly environment, so they say, and that Netflix would not get a one up on the competition. The problem is Paramount Skydance already has a big, big conglomerate when it comes to TV. So now you're talking about purchasing Warner Brothers. Either is bad, but with the whole Paramount Skydance thing, and y'all know how I feel about that merger. Them buying Warner Brothers pretty much would amount to what Senator Warren was saying. Like, that is a 5 alarm antitrust fire. At this point, we were talking about Netflix possibly monopolizing, but Paramount buying it is an even worse situation because now, as we said, you're influencing everything that people watch. We already know that Paramount Skydance, Viacom, CBS, all of that is underneath that umbrella, and a lot of changes have been made that were, in my opinion, politically motivated, as far as taking certain programs off TV or taking certain programs off certain TV stations, uh, or in this case, decreasing quote unquote DEI and you removing certain people who were in these positions who diversified your front office and now look where we're at. So it's to be frank, do I like the idea of Netflix buying Warner Brothers? No, because I don't think that Netflix has Warner Brothers' best interest at heart as far as keeping all of the I pretty much all of their IPs. And on top of that, I'm not gonna say it's gonna ruin, movies because look, we're still gonna go to the movies. It's just the idea of one big company buying another big company and becoming even more massive just already already has me concerned. But I would much rather Netflix have it than Paramount Skydance because with their direct ties to the White House, who knows what would influence everybody as they tune in. I mean, we're talking news, we're talking uh different kind of TV shows, we're talking all the stations in general. Again, it's Netflix does not have ties to the White House. Paramount does. That's where things get a little dicey. So, in terms of which overlord do I want buying Warner Brothers, I it's one of those lesser of two evil situations. But if I had to pick, I'm definitely going the Netflix route, and I do hope that in this case, Netflix wins the bidding war, and that Warner Brothers just agrees to go there instead of getting big googly eyes and getting greedy and going for that Paramount Skydance bid, knowing good and well that as the CEO of Netflix said, you're trying to create synergies, you're going to end up cutting even more jobs. And we already know where those job cuts are going to come from to start. If you know how this administration and how that company has been operating. But that's all I wanted to talk about regarding that situation. It's a little dicey. I do want to talk about something else that really caught my attention as well. And I just got to say, some people are just stupid, man. Some people are really just, excuse my language, dumbasses, but will do anything to put a spotlight on themselves in order to be at the face of a quote unquote movement. And if you're not sure where I'm going with this, let me just paint this picture. If I write a college essay and I don't follow the rubric, I don't meet the word count, I don't use evidence, and I don't actually cite my references, I'm going to fail. Hell, if I was in high school, I would fail. And y'all know how South Carolina education is, unfortunately. But still, I would still fail. And yet, we come to the situation of Samantha Fulnecky. And maybe you've already heard the story. Maybe you've seen it all circulating throughout social media about what she did and what she is decrying and pretty much putting this graduate assistant on leave because she wants to cry out that she is being persecuted due to her faith. As a college educated Christian, uh, let me just say this. Please shut the up. And I kept myself from saying the actual word, but please shut up. Please. I'm going to share this article because, yeah, matter of fact, I don't even really need to share it. I'm just going to read it. A University of Oklahoma student is in the national spotlight for claiming religious discrimination after she failed a psychology essay. That is number one. You're trying to use you're trying to use religious reasoning in a psychology paper, in a class that's based off of science. Again, once again, I am a Christian, guys. Jesus is Lord. However, when it comes to certain topics in college, there's a time and place for that. And then, even if you use your religion, you have to cite your references, you have to cite your resources. Let me continue. Samantha Fulnecky, a junior at the University of Oklahoma, or OU, received a 0 on an assignment asking students to react to an article on gender roles. After receiving her grade, she filed a complaint with the university. Samantha Fulnecky, a junior at OU, referenced the Bible throughout a 650-word assignment, asking her to react to an article over gender roles for a psychology class. The graduate teaching instructor gave Fulnecky a 0 on the assignment, saying she did not follow the guidelines. The instructor also called the article at times offensive. A second instructor for the course agreed with the grade, saying the assignment was not followed. The instructor is on administrative leave. The university said the essay will not count toward Fulnecky's final grade. That is insane for a university to step in. That is crazy. And we'll get to why that's kind of crazy later, because that goes against the privacy of the student and the teacher for you to step in, because she's claiming religious discrimination and yet did not follow the rubric. Let me just read you what she says. I'm sorry. This is giving me a headache. It says Fulnecky is a junior at OU. She is from Nixon, Missouri. According to a biography on OU women's tennis page, she was listed on the women's tennis roster for the 24-25 season. She spoke to Coco 5 after filing the complaint against the professor. I gave my opinion, and not just my opinion, but that's like the Bible says that God created male and female, and anything that's not from God is glorifying to God is glorifying the enemy, Fulnecky said. Fulnecky said she reached out to the teaching assistant to reconsider the grade before filing a formal complaint with the university. It's that I think I should have gotten 100. I've gotten 100 on every single essay in this class, and I write them all the same, exactly the same. The TA has never had a problem with how I write my papers in this class, so it has nothing to do with the title or grammar or how I write or anything like that. Really, I've written that essay. OU's chapter of Turning Point USA, and no wonder, posted screenshots of Fulnecky's essay rated below. And I'm not going to read the article because it's yeah. I'll let you guys read it for yourself, but just know that there was a lot of quote unquote spelling and grammatical errors. She did not make any, because the assignment was for her to use empirical evidence. She didn't even quote the Bible, book, verse, or page. She just referenced the Bible. She made what I saw on social media. She made Bible noises. She didn't even directly quote the Bible. I'm pretty sure that if she had actually quoted the Bible, she could have gotten a better grade. The instructor probably would have gave her some points just for that. But the fact that you didn't even quote the Bible correctly, you just referenced it. That's not how these essays or these assignments are supposed to work in a college course, guys. What are we doing? I would fail a high school paper if I didn't cite my sources. And she said that she writes her papers like that 100% of the time. Ma'am, who is your instructor for that to be happening? And are you sure you're doing that? Let me see the other essays that you've written for the past year, which again, we can't do that because of privacy concerns. Like there are literally privacy laws that deal with that. But still, on the essay rubric, the grading was based on whether there was an understanding of the article, whether it was a clear reaction, and whether the main ideas were organized in a coherent discussion. The assignment was worth 25 points. The graduate instructor, who did not wish to comment on the story, said the essay did not follow the assignment guidelines and was at times offensive. The instructor said it lacked empirical evidence. Please note that I am not deducting points because you have certain beliefs, but instead I am deducting points for you posting a reaction paper that does not answer the questions for this assignment, contradicts itself, heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence in a scientific class, and is at times offensive, the instructor said in the grading comments, according to screenshots posted by OU's Turning Point USA chapter. This feels like this is really just this is a publicity stunt for Turning Point. That's really what it is. They've turned what a normal paper would normally get a failing grade from anybody else, and Turning Point decided to turn this into a publicity stunt. And we all know why. But let me continue. While you are entitled to your own personal beliefs, there is an appropriate time or place to implement them in your reflections. I encourage all students to question or challenge the course material with other empirical findings or testable hypotheses, but using your own personal beliefs to argue against the findings of not only this article, but the findings of countless articles across psychology, biology, sociology, etc., is not best practice. The instructor also responded to Fulnecky's claims that society pushing the idea of multiple genders is demonic. Additionally, to call an entire group of people demonic is highly offensive, especially a minoritized population. You are entitled to your own beliefs, but this isn't a vague narrative of society pushes lies, but instead the result of countless years of developing psychological and scientific evidence for these claims and directly interacting with the communities involved. Mind you, this is all what the graduate assistant is saying. You may personally disagree with this, but that doesn't change the fact that every major psychological, medical, pediatric, and psychiatric association in the United States acknowledges that biologically and psychologically, sex and gender is neither binary nor fixed. The instructor, who is a transgender woman, commented. Fulnecky told Coco that she did not mean for the demonic comments to be offensive. A second instructor for the course also commented on the essay, saying they agreed with the grade given to Fulnecky. This paper should not be considered as a completion of the assignment, said the second instructor's comments, according to screenshots from Turning Point USA. When Fulnecky received a 0 out of 25 points on the assignment, filed a complaint against OU claiming her religious freedom was violated. The instructor was placed on administrative leave. The university confirmed to Coco that the essay would not count towards Fulnecky's final grade. And of course, the university posted about this whole situation. They tweeted this whole situation. Michael Givell, a professor of political science at the University of Oklahoma, described the situation as unusual with many unknowns and questions surrounding the process. If I started advertising why I gave a grade to a student, I would be in hot water under federal privacy laws at OU. That's what I'm getting. That's the other thing that I'm getting at. The fact that OU even made this public, the fact that Turning Point even made this public, that's like, what are we doing, y'all? Givell noted that the university's public statement over the weekend regarding the graduate student teaching assistant administrative leave was out of the ordinary. The tweet on Sunday evening is highly unusual and frankly concerning that OU was tweeting about a personnel decision about the GTA. And of course, you've got people on the right talking about some Yeah, there was one saying, person says, I'm trying to look at some quotes. Some people are saying, "Oh, what an absolute rock star she is! What an absolute American hero!" Man, she no, man. Oh my god. This is really beginning to piss me off, y'all. Like the more I read into this, the more frustrated I get. And this is why I don't like talking politics on here because it's just like, man, common sense ain't common no more. But yet you got people out here who will glorify poorly written essays, all in the name of quote unquote fighting religious persecution. She is not being persecuted. Her religious freedoms were not violated. This person wanted to pretty much be a publicity stunt. She wanted to, I don't know. I don't know what her mindset was. I don't want to get into that because, in my opinion, I think that she was trying to attack this graduate assistant and then decided to make it political and decided to take it public. And now she's made a public spectacle out of this whole situation. When all she had to do was literally answer the prompt. And then if you disagree, add your thoughts to that, but then use empirical evidence. And at the same time, you could have still quoted the Bible. You could have done all of that. Instead, you wrote a poorly written essay that didn't meet the word count, didn't use empirical evidence, and you didn't cite resources. I would just want to go to some of what Fulnecky's supporters are saying. She met the requirements. No, she didn't. She did not deserve a zero. If she didn't clearly state empirical sources, take some points off, but not an entire grade to be a complete zero, said Khalid Magana, president of OU Turning Point USA. My guy. Professors have failed students for less. Oh, my Lord Jesus. Somebody please open the damn schools. Professors have literally failed students for less. Not citing your resources and not using empirical evidence is almost always grounds for an automatic zero. You weren't given that zero because it was an attack on your Christianity. You earned that zero for not following the instructions on the rubric. And if you were able to get 100s on all those other papers, I'm pretty sure that none of those assignments had that specific rubric, which all that tells me is that Samantha, when she wrote that essay, one, she was rushing. She was procrastinating. She was not taking this assignment seriously and then decided to write something quick just so she could turn the assignment in. That's what that tells me. She didn't put any thought into this. She didn't do any research. She just said, I'm going to just give my thoughts real quick on this. She more than likely didn't even read that rubric. I'm willing to bet she didn't. Because if you did, you would know not to post something like that. But anyway. The essay has circulated online, and some protesters argue that their issue is not with Fulnecky's beliefs. If that's her beliefs, that's fine. And when you cite references, you cite a page, and so on. Attendees at the protest, because apparently there was a protest on campus, said that they believe that essay received the grade it deserved, citing issues with source citation, assignment directions, and the absence of Fulnecky's name on the work. Oh, gosh, she didn't even put her name on the work? Oh, my goodness gracious, y'all. Oh, my God. How did you even get into college with that? That is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. But it mm, I will say, let me read this last comment before I get on to this next topic, and then I'm probably going to be done for the night because Who boy? Oh well, I got two more things to talk about. But anyway, is legal action possible? Attorney Ed Blau told Coco that he did not see basis for a lawsuit against the university on behalf of Fulnecky. Long story short, there's no constitutional guarantee to an A. There's just not, said Blau. This student is claiming discrimination based on her religion due to the grade that she receives in this paper. But let's flip it around a little bit. Is the university violating their professor's constitutional rights and First Amendment rights by suspending her because she gave a student a certain grade? But the road goes both directions. And there you have it. All I got to say, man, is that when you complete an assignment, you have to follow the instructions given. You have to go with what that rubric says. If the rubric asked you, or tells you to answer a question based on the empirical evidence and to cite your resources, then do that. And then, of course, you can give your opinion on the matter. But you have to answer the prompt. And pretty much the prompt was, or the question of the actual essay was, are gender roles or normative gender roles the results of bullying in middle school? Or rather, is bullying in middle school the results of normative gender roles in household families? That's really what it boils down to, is like, where does bullying stem from? And does it stem from gender roles playing roles into certain children's lives, which then results in bullying? And then all you have to do is just cite your resources and use empirical evidence. She didn't do any of that in a psychology class. She gave her personal thoughts. She did Bible noises. She just made references. She didn't cite her resources. She just very loosely referenced the Bible. And it, babe, I'm still not over the fact that if you're going to use the Bible, if in a scientific class or just in any paper in general, if you're going to quote the Bible, you need to quote it word for word, verbatim, the book and the verse and the page. And then be sure at the very end, especially if you're using APA, have that reference page or those source page cites sorted page. Oh God, I cannot speak today. If you're using APA format, please be sure that you have that cites sourced page at the end. And then you could have put the Bible or the Holy Bible. The fact that you wrote an essay like that, and trust me, I've read it. Listen, I know middle schoolers who can write better than that. The fact that she wrote that and claimed that she gets hundreds in all of her essays in that class, I highly doubt that. I have high doubts that she gets 100s in that class. I don't know, y'all. I don't know, man. People just really people are really want to make a spectacle of themselves. But now we know just who this person is, and safe to say we know how dumb she is, because why would you even put yourself on Front Street like that? Why would you make yourself a public spectacle for yourself, a turning point, to highlight quote unquote religious discrimination when really and truly it was just a poorly written essay? I know the answer why. I'm being facetious. I really don't want to say the answer because we all know what it is. But anyway, I wanted to get to one more story, and then I'm gonna give my thoughts on something that's actually upcoming. So, real quick, I just want to discuss something that I've been seeing circulating around social media, and it's about the whole thing with Somalis and Somali Americans, and it's really bothersome that this administration has said such disparaging and offensive words to them, because it's just like, wow, wow. I the racism is strong in that administration. But let's actually talk about a racist situation that actually happened in Wisconsin, shall we? It just seems that a lot of things have been happening recently, and for America to quote unquote not be a racist country, according to some people on the right, there's a lot of racist shit happening. And y'all keep asking, well, why do y'all keep playing the race card? Motherfucker, because shit like this happens. Let me read the article. A Cinnabon worker in Wisconsin has been fired after a racist outburst directed at two customers went viral. The video posted to TikTok was recorded on December 5th. The TikToker says that she started recording after the employee made a derogatory comment about her hijab. The employee went on to make more comments, including using the N word and calling herself a racist. At one point, the employee is seen saying, "I am racist and I'll say it to the whole entire world. Don't be disrespectful." Cinnabon posted a statement on social media that the worker, who it did not identify, was immediately terminated by the franchise owner over a disturbing video of the incident. Their actions and statements are completely unacceptable and in no way reflect the values of Cinnabon, our franchises, or the welcoming environment we expect for every guest and team member, the company said. The employee is also recorded flipping off customers and cussing out one of the people at the store. An online fundraising campaign to support the customers described them as Black Somali Muslim couple that's been traumatized by the incident. A competing campaign to benefit the fired worker has raised tens of thousands of dollars. That last comment. Why does racism get rewarded in this country? Don't answer that. And I'm not going to answer that because I already know. But why does racism get rewarded? This person got fired for being a racist prick, a racist xenophobic prick at that. And there were some comments on the right on social media saying, well, that couple, I guess, had antagonized her. Okay, let me just give you some advice. This is coming from someone who has been in multiple customer facing jobs. When customers antagonize me, do you know what I do? I politely tell them, if you're going to continue to speak to me this way, I will not be serving you. And then I walk away from the situation, and then I go get my manager. And if my manager's not there, of course, I call someone in upper management to let them know the situation. And then when they leave, the most that you may get out of me is me calling them assholes. Being antagonized by customers does not, and I repeat, does not okay you being racist. Calling them the N-word and other derogatory terms. Just because a customer cussed you out does not mean you need to go full-blown racism or full-blown KKK. I don't get it. And then the fact that the audacity that this person is being rewarded for this. They have a whole fundraiser out for her. This is the same shit that happened in Minnesota all the way back in May when a white woman called a Black child the N-word multiple times. And she nearly raised $600K for that incident. What? That is so frustrating. That is so frustrating, especially as a Black person, because it's just like, damn, like, do y'all really just hate us that much? There is no reason why that Black Somali couple or that Black child should have been called anything other than a child of God or a child of Allah. That is crazy work. And again, if they were antagonizing her and again, if you were in a customer facing position, if you're being antagonized, there's ways that you handle that. You have the right of refusal of service. And then if you don't, you serve them, get them out your store, and then of course you can take it up with upper management to make sure that they never come to your store ever again. If it is if it's in a case of ethics, that's what you would do. There are little ways for you to protect yourself like that. However, that's not what happened here. This person, of course, who was rightfully fired, decided to have a racist outburst. Maybe it's because of the stuff that she's been watching on the news. And of course, we already know what the person who occupies the White House has said about Somalis and how he feels about them, which is crazy that in real time, the president of the United States is racially discriminating an entire group of people. And I have yet to see them do any wrong at all in this country. I don't know why they're being targeted. I do not know why. I've tried to find reasons of why they're being racially targeted, but they're not. They just decided that that would be the group that they would go against for some strange reason. It is so demoralizing when we see stuff like this, and that's why I'm really concerned about Paramount Skydance trying to purchase Warner Brothers, because now you have someone who's at the top who is literally has ties to the president and has ties to right-wing politics, trying to buy more media, as if a lot of right-wing rich billionaires don't already own the majority of the media that goes on in American society right now outside of podcasts. That is absolutely insane. The fact that they were trying to buy that conglomerate means that they can influence what other people watch, including news, because obviously CBS News falls under Paramount Skydance. And because of that, you have people who are literally being influenced by what they watch. It's more inherent than that, because obviously, again, hate and racism has to be taught. But stuff like that can be influenced when companies like Paramount Skydance try to buy other media corporations. But what do I know? I'm just a guy in a chair recording a podcast from his den somewhere in Baltimore. But I don't know any better. You know, I just grew up with this shit my entire life. I grew up in racist ass South Carolina, guys. Like, I've dealt with racism more times than I would like to count. Not so much in high school, because I was surrounded by more of my people, but if the stories that I could tell you in middle school, and how many times like I almost went to that next level of I literally unfortunately had to be the obedient Negro, because I was like, but there was one person who crossed that line. There was one. And after he crossed that line, nobody else ever crossed that line ever again, because they saw what happened. That being said, still, I can only imagine what that Somali couple is dealing with. And I really just hope that they are able to heal from that trauma, because who would want to deal with that? That is absolutely insane. And that racist white woman who apparently is raising tens of thousands of dollars because she believes she got fired unjustly. You were being racist, ma'am. You didn't get fired unjustly. You were fired with cause. But apparently, again, racism gets rewarded in this country. You need another example? See the president of the United States. But what do we know? What do we know? Anyway, with that in mind, guys, the only thing that I wanted to comment on was that the Grammys will be coming up, obviously, in 2026. And I just really wanted to make one comment based on all of the Grammy nominations that I've seen. And the biggest comment obviously comes from the best rap category. Sounds like rain. That's crazy. It's raining. But when it comes to best rap album, there is this ongoing quote unquote debate or this ongoing thought more so that the Clips album Let God Sort 'Em Out should win rap album of the year and Kendrick's album GNX should win album of the year. But here is my response to that. In an ideal world, that could possibly work. But as long as I've been watching the Grammys, no album won album of the year that didn't win its music category. So if Let God Sort 'Em Out won best rap album, why would GNX win album of the year? That wouldn't make any sense. And yes, we know that the Recording Academy or the people who vote within the Recording Academy, they have changed their voting requirements. They have to listen to everything now. If they are voting in a certain block, they can't just vote because, oh, someone just happens to have more awards than the other person. They can't, vote and say like they did in the past, like, oh, Beyonce wins too much. That's why I didn't vote for her. Mind you, I didn't listen to her album. She just wins too much. No, that they've changed they have completely changed how the Recording Academy votes on these awards. With that being said, it would not make sense for GNX to win album of the year if it cannot win best rap album. And I really want people to really think about that. Have you seen any album that won album of the year not win their category? Because I haven't personally. Every album that has won album of the year won the category it was associated with. Taylor Swift, all those album of the years that she got, she won her category, whether it was in pop or whether it was in country. Beyonce, when Cowboy Carter won, she had won best country album. And now, of course, they've changed the country categories, but still, she won best country album and then won album of the year. When 24 Karat Magic or 24K Magic, Bruno Mars, he won best pop album of the year, and so on and so forth. So yes, in an ideal world, Let God Sort 'Em Out could win rap album of the or best rap album, especially if you're a hip hop purist. But let's not take away the impact that Kendrick's album had. Was it his most lyrical? No. Obviously, he's had more lyrical albums. But I think Kendrick even said in GNX itself, like, that's not what that album was for. When we're talking about impact, when we're talking about what he's doing on tour right now, if we're talking about how it stayed at the top of the charts, and I'm not a chart person, but the fact that it stayed at the top of the charts, the fact that it was still a very critically acclaimed album based on his lyrics, based on the storytelling, based on how the album was put together. Why would it? I'm just asking these questions. Let's not try to downplay Kendrick just because some people might consider him a Grammy darling. Well, if you can consistently put out great bodies of work, what the fuck do you think was going to happen? So again, that's not to take away from what everybody else has done as well, because again, Tyler had a great album with Chromacopia, and some people think he deserves it. And honestly, if he wins, I won't be mad at that. Glorilla had a great album with Glorious. And if some people, I don't foresee her winning, if I'm being brutally honest, but she still had a great album. But most of us believe it's going to come down to Let God Sort 'Em Out versus GNX and maybe versus Chromacopia. And my gut feeling is telling me that GNX is going to sweep everything in the rap category. That's just how I feel. I think, and maybe conspiracy theorists might think this, that the Grammys will never forgive themselves for not awarding Kendrick Lamar best rap album for Good Kid, Mad City, and they have been paying the price ever since. But that being said, it's not like Kendrick hasn't deserved every time he's dropped. Every album that he has had, that he has submitted to the Grammys, has been incredible bodies of work. Even if you think that GNX is his least creative album, it's still an incredible body of work. And that's crazy. If you that I'm just saying that this just shows how talented he is. But again, let me get off that soapbox. Let God Sort Him Out was a great and a phenomenal rap album, and it is the best rap album of 2025. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Again, Let God Sort Him Out was the best rap album of 2025. So when you see my list and you see it at the top of the list, don't be surprised. Though there is a contender. There's actually two contenders. I won't say which. You'll just have to watch that episode to find out at the end of the year when I do my top 25 hip hop albums of 2025. That being said, y'all, I'm gonna get up out of here. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you enjoyed my rants, my frustrations, my head scratching, my migraines. And I hope that you have the same opinions I have. And if you don't, express why you don't. You know, I'd like to hear some feedback. I want you to challenge me on my thinking. You know, why do you think that Samantha Fulnecky should have gotten a full 100 on that poorly ass written essay? Or why do you think that that racist ass worker from Cinnabon should be compensated for any reason at all? Or maybe you think that Paramount Skydance would do a better job of having Warner Brothers Discovery under their umbrella as opposed to Netflix. Let me know what you think about all of that. That being said, yeah, I'm gonna get up out of here because I am tired. I've had rough work weeks, and it's going to get even rougher. But that being said, before I get up out of here, I do want to give a shout out, and maybe she will watch this or maybe she won't. I hope that she gets a chance to see this. But shout out to Asia Maria, or maybe it's Asia Mariah. She never really told me what that what the middle name was, but either way, she has had an incredible R&B song that's out and has been playing on the Baltimore radio stations, and she's been getting a lot of attention. And I just want to shout her out because that is an up and coming black artist, an up and coming R&B black artist. She can really sing, and I did not know this, and I've known her for about a year and a half, and I didn't even realize that she was doing the singing thing until like literally just recently. So big shout out to her, big shout out to Asia. Maybe prayerfully one day I can have her on this podcast so we can have a discussion about her music. I would love to have her, and I would love to discuss what's next for her because I see big things for her, and I hope that she's able to see that too. But that being said, y'all, that is my time. Please be sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Chaotic Culture podcast on your favorite DSP. Once again, please be sure that you subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/chaotic culture pod to get this episode early and to get more bonus content. Please be sure that you follow us on all social media, including following us on Blue Sky at chaoticculture.bsky.social. You can also follow us on Facebook at the Chaotic Culture Podcast page. You can follow us on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Chaotic Culture Pod. You can follow us on X/Twitter at Chaotic Culture 1. You can follow me, Ked the Pro. That's K3D the Pro on all social media. And of course, you can follow all of my co-hosts on their social media platforms. Scuba Steve at Scuba Steve 1428 on all social media, Sappy at Scratch 14 on all social media, JJ Trey on all social media, Miss Nasa at I'm Nicasso on all social media, and of course Law at L.JR_96 on Instagram and Law96_ on Twitter. And he also has a TikTok as well, but I don't know if he hardly uses that. But anyway, that's a wrap, guys. This has been another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. So until next time, folks, remember, embrace the culture, chaos rules, be blessed, be safe. God is love. And I am out of here. Deuces.
So what's the word?
You are now tuned in to the Chaotic Culture Podcast. And